Hello, my name is Robin Gilstrom. I'm an N Scale model railroader. I've been doing N scales since 1986. I like to do unique and different types of carloads and engines and things. And I'm also a member of the South Bay Historical Railroad Society at the Santa Clara Train Depot in Santa Clara, California. I want to introduce you to the final product, which is based on a prototype of the SP number 59 McKeen car that I was trying to model. When I received this McKeen car, it was in pieces. The best I've been able to determine is were originally manufactured by a gentleman named Bob Ferris, who was out of the Fresno, California area, I believe. I met him once years ago, but he apparently used to make really odd things, cars and stuff, and this is one of the cars that I've always wanted to model. So when the parts came in as a donation to the Santa Clara Depot group, I immediately got a hold of it and tried to figure out how I was going to manufacture this and make it work. It was a series of a box of parts in it. As you can see, there's a cast resin roof line, etched brass body parts, and then some various other pieces of brass and or plastic parts. The only parts that I actually used in the final product was the roof and the sides there. The matching passenger car that came with it came looking like this, but it required a lot of work. I eventually ended up stripping it, taking it apart, rebuilding it, putting it back together. The passenger car, to the best of my knowledge, SP never owned one of the passenger versions. There was a baggage version of this that was used. I have never been able to find an actual picture of the passenger version, but based on research, I know they existed, but very few. There are only like 3 or 4 that were ever made. And the baggage, there weren't very many of those made either. So most railroads pulled normal passenger cars or whatever behind it if they needed extra room. So now I'll talk about the process in terms of fabricating the different parts and what I had to build from scratch and what I had to use what came. So in reality, the bottom plate that supports the motor and the trucks is a piece of PCB copper-clad printed circuit board. I had to fabricate a new roof metal piece to solder the brass sides onto it to form the shape, and then the roof line that I had to use a milling machine to mill out more room in it so that the motor, you can see it here, it sticks up and it goes into the roof line a little bit, and to heighten it I had to make this piece of clear plastic to raise it up a little bit higher. Here's another picture of the PCB board and cut it out for the motor to mount and the trucks to mount into it, and you can see where I milled out and had to mill out the metal there. And there's sort of the finished product before it's getting ready to be assembled. For the passenger car, I had to redo the roof line again, just like the main car. I had to make a metal roof to form the shape so I could solder it together, and then make a new PCB board flooring so that I could mount the trucks and stuff on it, and then mount the plastics. Here is roughly what the base to the passenger car was and what it looked like. And again, we have various pictures showing the parts and how they're assembled. Oh, that's something I didn't talk about, was the motor, how I drove this. The drive mechanism is a GreenMax power chassis that they make that is a PCB type board with the motor mounted on it in the trucks, and it gets all-wheel pickup both from the front and the rear of the motor assembly. But it's designed to where you can cut the board and extend it in length. Well, I just took the drive mechanism and the front truck off of it and made my new PC board to manufacture like it so that I would have a mechanism with the right wheel spacing, because it just made more sense to do it that way. One of the pieces that came with it was this piece of brass. It's very thin. Apparently, originally design was that the motor was going to be mounted in the front truck. In my case, I ended up mounting, it's a pusher, so the truck is mounted in the back of it. But I used this as a template. As you can see in the picture, there's a piece of plastic here that I had to fabricate to help raise the roof a little bit. And I used this template to draw it out and then hand cut it, rough cut it with just various hand tools, and then use a sander I have to sand it down to the various shapes to make sure everything fit exactly. I used a milling machine to mill out the hole for the motor to stick up through, both in this piece of plastic and in the roof line. And various pieces, just a lot of hand tools and cutting. I used a Dremel tool to grind away part of the PCB board so that it wasn't all one solid piece, connecting and cutting the various holes and power lines and stuff. Here's a picture of the assembled unit prior to painting, although there's probably some more sanding and refinement to do, especially after you get the primer on it, because it shows up all the flaws. But one thing really sort of point out is I never intended this to be entered in a contest to be a final product. It's not perfect by any means. If you really look at the prototype, you'll see that the roof vents that are on the roof are not exactly correct to the original stuff, but I always wanted a McKeen car. I just felt it was neat. I did some research with various SP historical people and found out that originally the McKeen cars did come in a red. You saw the passenger trailer car when it arrived was in a reddish maroon color, but I wanted them to all match, and I found out that within a year or two after arrival they repainted them in this what I'll call Pullman green with black roofs and black trucks. So that's what I chose to do, and like I said, it is number 59. I did research. There were 3 or 4 models of this particular McKeen car. McKeens came in various lengths. This is a 73-foot one, I think, or 70. I can't remember now. But there were short ones. They came in versions that were passenger baggage RPO, which is what this one is. But some were just passenger, some were just baggage of various lengths. So I think there were a total of somewhere in the 30 to 40 different McKeens made. Very few of them were the same. They were somewhat custom made for each railroad that wanted them. There is one surviving unit in Carson City, Nevada that has been restored and actually runs. It's in the original maroonish color, but there's also another one down in Southern California, in San Diego, that they're in the process of restoring. They found the body in Alaska and had it shipped down to San Diego, and they're trying to work on it. Good luck on that. I know it's a lot of restoration work and a lot of money, but like I said, I just wanted one and wanted it to be as prototypical as I could do with the parts I had. The roof line is not perfect. The vents are not exactly the right ones for the roof line, but you work with what you have. And like I said earlier, I did not intend to enter this in any contest. I just wanted one because it's unique. This is a picture of the bottom of both cars. You can see that the PCB board, I removed some of the copper clad so that it forms a circuit instead of a short, and I added some details. The details are what I had, and to make it look somewhat real. But the power truck is the rear truck, so it is a pusher in a sense. But it just worked out that by putting the motor in the back, I could fit it in better than putting it in the front. One of the things you'll notice in all of the previous pictures of the product was that it did not come with a front cow catcher. I had to figure out a way to manufacture that. If you can see it, right here, that was a real challenge. So what I ended up doing was, this is my final idea, and hopefully all of this inspires you to be creative and stuff, but I bought some gold medal models, Venetian blinds like you would put in windows in a building. But if you notice, they're straight lines and stuff, sort of like a cowcatcher. So I cut some pieces of brass in a V shape. These are where I cut it out of, you can see there, for a top and bottom. Soldered the Venetian blinds to one of them, bent them to the shape so it's leaning forward towards the front as it goes down, and then bend the ends over, cut them off so there's no excess, and then soldered another V-shaped piece of brass onto that. And that whole part, as I don't know if you can see it very well, but is just one whole piece that's held in place with one screw right in there. So that was a real challenge. In fact, that's what really made the product come to a finished product and look right. It just didn't look right without the front cowcatcher. So I really struggled over that to figure out how to do it, but I came up with a solution, and I think it turned out pretty well. It's not perfect, but I'm happy with it. I wanted to show you the interior and what went on inside. As you can see, the printed circuit board, you can see the copper strips, and I've removed some of the copper so we've formed full circuits. As you can see, I put a Digitrax DZ126 decoder in it to drive the motor, and the lights come up here. This is a piece of plastic, various plastics that I'll show you. There's a hole in the end of that which shoves onto the piece of fiber optics, as you can see right here, so I get light to the front. There's obviously I added weight. Need as much weight as you can, especially on where the motor, the drive mechanism, and like this is a piece of weight right here. This is the mechanism, the motor mechanism that came with that Green Max I talked about earlier. It was interesting to try and figure out how to fabricate the whole thing and stuff, but I had fun doing it, and I love trying to figure out how to do something. Is a challenge, and it's what floats my boat or runs my train, I guess they might say. So that's what the interior looks like, and you can see that I hollowed out the shell right in here so that the motor mechanism can fit up inside it. I had to add these brass angle iron bars to support the chassis and form the ends. Obviously for mounting it, I have a screw that goes through there to here and a screw in the front pilot that holds that together. And then I put in clear plastic so you see the glass of the windows, so they're done. And again, this was just fun trying to figure out how to do it and being inventive. I hope you've enjoyed this video of the process I went through for making this. It was challenging, it was fun, it made me think about how are you going to do something, and hopefully this inspires you to come up with new ways to approach different modeling projects that you might have. So thanks for watching.